Due to his tutor, Tepes adopted and identified with Greek culture. In July of 1173, an unknown saboteur meddled with the fishing boat that King Tepes was to set sail on, and if he hadn't noticed the flaws, he would have surely perished out at sea. The tamperer was not found, but he suspected his stepsister Claudia, who would have inherited the portion of his kingdom were it not for his adoption. Less than 3 months later, while out on a hunting trip, his guide faltered in his slaughter and broke down, saying he was hired by a masked employer. Despite these attempts on his life, King Tepes was able to reach adulthood alive. In 1174, the Sakaliva were formed to protect Druze people from the resurgent Muslim threat in the form of a reborn Seljuk Empire. In January of that year, Der became a tributary subject of Deutschland, leading to war amongst them and Istradklut, who felt threatened. England also became a secondary title once more. Early in the rule of King Tepes, he built seminary schools across Wallachia which taught a unified version of Bogomilist doctrine, furthering the decades-long effort to formalize and unite the faith. Soon thereafter, he received his coronation. Directly after the end of the celebratory feast, the drunken and exhausted King Tepes was kidnapped by a gang of strangers, who very nearly tossed him in their carriage before the guards came to his rescue and slaughtered them. On the 1st of March 1175, King Tepes married a woman of 30 named Carmen de Celine, who was renowned throughout the Mediterranean for her beauty. In 1177, the world knew the Turks' reign of terror would resume when they shattered the Empire of Hague into a scattered mess of counties among the Caucasus Mountains. A daughter was born to King Tepes, named Theodora. Another daughter was born to him in 1179, named Euanthia. Meanwhile, at the behest of King Tepes, he and a council of prefecti in Targovishte compiled the Font Bompard Bible. This was the first time the Bogomilist faith had an agreed-upon canon, and was a landmark on its long road to formalization. In 1180, Navarro's growing presence in North Africa led to it becoming the dominant force on that continent. The ancient and remarkably stable Autogust Federation was made a tributary state to the Imperio de Navarra after a short war that lasted from March to May of that year. In 1181, the Sunni Caliph Bozan declared a jihad against Aksum, which was a locally powerful Coptic Christian kingdom. A third daughter was born to King Tepes on the 1st of April 1183, named Anastasia. Queen Carmen fell ill with food poisoning after giving birth to Anastasia. In 1184, the jihad for Aksum was successful, being subsumed into the Caliphate of Manchu-Takenlar. On the 21st of January 1186, the wealthy island kingdom of Milano hired tens of thousands of mercenaries and launched a surprise invasion of Pannonia, which held the vast majority of French land. Shortly after the beginning of the invasion, Pannonia surrendered, leading to Milano taking possession of this continental land, becoming a new major power in the region to contest Deutschland. Their home islands gained independence while the armies were away, but Ray Ricard the Silent allowed Sardinia to maintain their sovereignty in light of his new conquests. In 1187, Pope Callistinus III, called the Wicked, declared the Seventh Crusade, with the Empire of Kiev as its target. Surely the Pope's most ambitious target in decades, rivers of blood were sure to flow. By December of that year, former subjects of the once great Septimanian Empire fled to Scandinavia in the light of their new Milanese overlords, settling in southern Sweden and establishing the new kingdom of Aquitaine. The Seventh Crusade was won in 1188, establishing the small Catholic kingdom of Livima, but humiliating the young Tsar Félix regardless. In August of 1189, King Tepes adopted the culture of his birth once more, remaking himself in the Roman image. In 1190, the Seljuk resurgence was interrupted with the succession of the Perezids, taking all Seljuk territory north of the Karakum Desert. In 1191, a small band of apostolic Christians and ethnic Armenians formed the Order of St. Blaise to protect their people from the Massalians to the west and the Muslims to the east. In 1196, King Tepes began an affair with one of his courtiers, a married woman named Alexandria. She was a distant cousin to him by dynasty, but not by blood. A bastard daughter soon sprang from their relations named Navina. Her husband, Paltoy, was quite displeased, but in no position to act. Another daughter was born to this infidelity, named Lydia. Both of these daughters were recognized, but not legitimized. In 1197, another daughter was born, named Alexandria for her mother, and recognized. A speculated motivation for the king's unfaithful actions in this context could be related to the fact that his wife, Queen Carmen, was well past her childbearing years at the age of 53. However, Alexandria was killed by an unknown figure, leading to a confrontation at her grave between the king and her old husband. This landed Politore in jail. King Tepes and Alexandria had 3 children together and were expecting a 4th, all daughters. In 1198, a small revolt to lower crown authority was put down, but led to the loss of some land in the north to the Empire of Kiev during the chaos. Another daughter was born to King Tepes and his wife at this time, miraculously. She was named Zina. However, Queen Carmen died of a heart attack shortly after giving birth to Zina. King Tepes married another woman named Urraca, a red-haired woman of Euskara descent. Finally, after 7 daughters, a son was born to King Tepes, who he named Oswald. In 1207, Navarra subjugated an Indian Shahdom, showcasing their far-reaching influence. On the 29th of June, Princess Anastasia married Kaiser Arnulf of Deutschland when he asked for her hand. This strengthened relations between the 2 realms. On the 30th of December 1210, the Seljuks brought all their rebellious breakaways back into the fold and returned to that zenith of power that they occupied over a century ago. Later that month, rumors reached the court of an ambitious Khan from beyond the Great Mountains that has set out to unite the clans of the steppe. It is also said by men who read the stars that this Khan was destined to become the ruler of the world. However, these stories were disregarded as overwrought Oriental storytelling by most people. This was until the 15th of June 1211, when at the Battle of the Tian Shan Mountain Pass, the army of Shah Merab the Glorious was routed by the horde of Khan Temujin the Vengeful. What was once one of the largest armies in the known world, the Seljuk Turks at 41,000 men, was dwarfed and utterly outclassed by the Mongol horde of 73,000 men. In December, Navarra subjugated the Nordic Aquitaine, adding them to their collection of tributary states. Meanwhile, as a terror of the eastern horse lords threatened to utterly topple the Seljuk hegemony, Caliph al-Mu'tamid declared a jihad against the Mongols, calling upon the entire Muslim world to beat back the unstoppable Mongol hordes. Meanwhile, to the west, Ricard the Silent declared himself Imperatore of the Milanese Empire. More rumors reached the court in 1216 that a terrible plague was ravaging Kiev in the far north. Inconsolable refugees have been driven south by an eldritch illness, riddling the affected with black buboes, blackened limbs, and rotting flesh. With no mention of a cure or even a treatment, such a disease could be the death of millions. The conflux of the Black Plague, with the arrival of the great Khan Temujin, seemed to herald the end of the very world itself. A god rendered judgment to punish the sins of humanity in a flood not of water and thunder, but of blood and pestilence. On the 11th of February, Pope Alexander II declared the Eighth Crusade, with Vipsanma as its target. In 1219, Lydia was killed by an unknown assailant. In 1221, Zina died of smallpox. Later in October, King Tepes, who had taken to calling himself Theophylactos, earned the moniker of the Old for his advancing age without signs of mental decay. In November, the Milanese Empire conquered the Danish peninsula and Nordic Aquitaine. On the 1st of June 1223, the Eighth Crusade saw a success with the establishment of the Kingdom of Suomi as a Catholic realm, also making it the furthest north of any Catholic holding. In 1223, King Tepes legitimized his bastard daughter Nevena at her request. He did the same for his daughter Alexandria. In 1224, the jihad against the Mongols failed, leading to the further growth of Mongol territory. On the 1st of May 1227, Ealdun declared himself High Caesar of Britannia, an imperial title he formed out of the warring chaos on the British Isles when he was King of Dare. This was a powerful new representative of the Catholic faith and a new dimension of power in northwestern Europe. On the 11th of July 1228, the Mongols made a deep push in the Seljuk Northlands. Over 3 months, the Seljuks lost the northern half of their empire to the Endless Horde. On the 12th of December 1228, King Tepes died of natural causes at the age of 70. A generous man who presided over a peaceful rule, future Wallachian kings would strive to emulate him. His only son, King Georgios, once called Oswald, ascended to the throne at the age of 27.